in my own hometown. Stranger.
Howdy folks, Little John here, and once again it's time for a 5 on Friday. And we're getting through today with a little bit of support from Le Proc. I think it's pronounced Le Proc. Scotch from the, I think it's called Isla, I think it's pronounced Isla. Ooh, a bit smoky. Not tried a Isla Scotch before, so this is something new for me. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is cold crashing. Now, you see people asking all the time, particularly newer brewers, going, what is cold crashing? How do I do it? You know, what's the benefit? Well, let's go through it. Cold crashing is simply dropping the temperature of your finished beer once fermentation is completed down to as close to zero as you can for a couple of days to help drop anything that's left in the beer out, particularly yeast and, you know, trub and hops and stuff like that. Compacts it all to the bottom, stops the yeast from fermenting. Basically, yeah, so it brings the fermentation to an end and helps to clear the beer and gets it ready for packaging, whether that be in, you know, kegs or in bottles. And it doesn't matter which way you're doing it. You can use that cold crash to get that result. Now, doing a cold crash obviously requires temperature control and a fridge, or at the very least a fridge. You don't particularly have to have temperature control on the fridge. You can use just any fridge set with a normal fridge thermostat that's going to get you down there. But ideally, you want that cold crash to happen around 0 degrees, -1 degree, if you can. Now obviously a lot of fridges won't go that cold. Some will, some won't. So it depends on what you've got, whether you can actually go there or not. My current fridge, I can get to about -0.8, which works quite nicely. I normally get about -0.2. I do find sometimes nudging to -0.8 you can get a little bit of freezing. And you get people who have that problem, oh, I've cold crashed my beer and it's frozen. And that's generally because they stick it in the fridge and they go from, you know, 18, 20 degrees fermentation temperature and they set the fridge to 0 and poof, off they go. So the fridge just gets as cold as it can. Now, if you've got a fridge that drops to -3 or -4 degrees, which there are a lot of fridges that will do that. My old previous fermentation fridge used to go to -4 quite easily. And plenty of fridges will do it. So that beer is going to sit in a -4 temperature environment for quite a while. So as the outer volume of your beer cools quicker than the inside, it starts to freeze, which isn't what you really want on a normal beer. If you're doing an ice block, that's exactly what you want. You want to freeze it and, you know, take that water off. At the end of the day, it doesn't really hurt your beer. You just let it fall back out and continue on. But it's not really what you want to do. So what is recommended, certainly a process I tend to follow as well, is to do it slowly. There are some suggestions that you should do it by a degree sort of a day, which is crazy, but I usually drop about 5 or 6 degrees a day. So if I'm at 18, I'll drop down to 12, then to, you know, around 7, then to, you know, 4, then to 1, and then, you know, go from there. So you do it over, you know, 3, 4, 5 day periods, so you're not getting that fridge down to a really cold temperature for an extended period, and it's also not putting your fridge under a really hard time. You know, if you're trying to get an 18 degree liquid down to 0 degrees, that fridge is going to run constantly for, you know, 36 to 48 hours. That's not good for your fridge. You know, So you don't want that. Bring it down a few degrees. Do something that can do within 6 to 8 hours. And obviously at that point you want your fridge down reasonably as cold as it will go, so you can get that temperature down quickly. Once it's cold, leave it there for 2 to 3 days. Let it do its stuff. You don't need to add finings if you're cold crashing. That's what the cold crash is going to achieve. But there are a lot of brewers that like to do it, and if you're going to do it, you can do it then. Get your beer cup, put your finings in, and let it sit for 2 to 3 days, and then bottle it. Now, when you are bottling, leave it at that cold temperature. Don't pull it out and let it warm back up to room temperature or whatever. For bottling, you're going to defeat to some degree what you're doing. That's because it warms, that yeast is going to wake up and it's going to start, coming back up into your beer. So bottle it cold. Now, the other problem that people have is that they're worried, if I cold crash, I'm not going to have any yeast left to do my bottle priming. Well, you'll have less yeast, but you'll still prime. It does take a little bit longer to get to the same level of carbonation as you would if you bottled at 18 degrees and you had in cold crash. But you do get there. And if you're using a calculator such as Brewer's Friend or whatever software you're on Beersmith or whatever program you're using, it will allow you to put in the temperature that your brewer's at the end of fermentation, so you can allow for what gas is already in there. The gas, once that CO2 is in that beer, it doesn't come out, especially at cold temperature. It stays in there at cold temperature. It comes out at warmer temperatures. So once it's in there, it stays there. So you bottle up. You just don't have quite as much yeast to work with the sugars. So instead of taking 3 weeks to reach, to get carved up, it might take 5 or 6 weeks. And if you're a kit brewer particularly, then that's a good thing, because you want to leave those beers for that 6, 8, 9 weeks to let them clear up and age better, to get a better result out of them. Obviously, if you're all grain and you're doing hoppy ales and stuff, then you want them to be ready to drink a little bit quicker. In which case, there is a argument for not cold crashing, or not going as cold on your cold crash. I quite often will go down to say 4 degrees and let that sit for a couple of days, which will still drop a lot of stuff out, but will still leave a fair whack of yeast in there to work with your priming. So if you're doing that hoppy pale ale or an IPA that you want, you really want to be drinking it in 3 or 4 weeks time. You don't want it sitting for 2 months before you get at it. Just don't drop your temperature as far down. Stop at that 4 degree mark and you'll leave some yeast in there. Now, if you don't have temperature control and you've got a fridge, you stick it in the fridge, turn the temperature down to maybe 2/3 of the maximum on that fridge and let it go, and you'll find you're going to sit somewhere between -1 and 1 degree on most fridges at that sort of range. But you can stick a thermometer in your fridge and check it if that's the setup you got, and make sure it's working fine. But either way, it's going to work. It's a simple process. It works really good for getting clear beer. I believe that relates then to, especially if you're bottling, to a better tasting beer, because you've got less crud in the bottle, you've got very little, and you can pour. I mean, most beers I can pour the whole bottle out and leave behind the yeast and get little, if not no, yeast or trub into the glass. So there's benefits from the taste side as well, and so it's taste and appearance of your final beer. Okay, it's not necessary, you don't have to do it, but if you want your beer to look and taste the best it can, then it's an option. It's a step you should bring into your brewing. It takes a little bit longer in the process, but every brewer should be taking that sort of time into account anyway. Okay, so that's it. Cold crashing. Get into it. If you've got any questions, stick them down the bottom if you want to know anything more about it. If you haven't subscribed to Little John already, hit the red button down there so you'll get a little notification every time there's a new video come up, so you don't miss anything. Because geez, we have some wonderful stuff to look at. We have some shit stuff to look at too. But that's for you to work out what's what. But anyway, that's me for today. 5 on Friday. I'm going to continue on. I've got a little bit of, I'm going to play around with a bit of yeast for the next hour or so. So until I'm looking at you again, we're talking beer, we're brewing beer, we're drinking beer. good brewing.